Galactic Year 9142, Empire Calendar. The arrival. The Galactic Empire didn't negotiate. It conquered. Species who saw the sleek obsidian hulls of Empire dreadnoughts in orbit usually did one of three things. Dropped their weapons. Raised their flags. Cried for mercy. They never laughed. Until Earth. Until humans. The Empire had cataloged thousands of sentient races. They'd met silicon-bonded giants, species that swam through methane, creatures that lived in plasma storms. But humans? They were odd. They lived on a water planet with a dangerous atmosphere, flung metal machines into the void for fun, and had a bizarre fascination with history's worst wars. To the Imperial Directorate of Expansion, Earth was another minor civilization to dominate, index, and integrate. That assumption was the first mistake. Transmission Day. The humans received the Imperial fleet's hail 3 hours after it arrived near Saturn's orbit. The flagship, Praetor Invictus, loomed like a moving continent, 6 kilometers long, bristling with weaponry capable of atomizing continents. Its commander, Grand Strategos Rahl, prepared the standard intimidation script. Greetings, inhabitants of Sol System. You have been observed, evaluated, judged. You now stand in the presence of the Galactic Empire. Surrender your autonomy. Submit your leadership. You will be integrated. Resistance will result in total eradication. Standard procedure. It worked every time. Except this time. The human reply came 30 seconds later. Audio only. Male voice. Come. Amused. Hey, I'm sorry. Are you serious? Rahl blinked. The bridge crew shifted uncomfortably. We have 5 seconds to comply, Rahl growled, voice rising. The reply? Laughter. Not nervous. Not mocking. Genuine amusement. This is too good. Jerry, get in here, you gotta hear this. The space fascists are threatening us. Rahl's mandibles twitched. Never had a species laughed at the directive speech. Empire Protocol, deploy shock and awe. Enraged, the Empire initiated Protocol F-12, atmospheric entry demonstration. 10 battleships split from the Armada and descended into Earth's stratosphere over major cities. New York, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Cairo, Berlin. They engaged visual weapon arrays, not to destroy but to terrify. Glowing beams traced across the sky, causing tremors. Thunder rolled. Power grids flickered. Crowds gathered. Phones came out. And once again, humans started laughing. Laughing. Not just children. Adults. Some were filming. Others were making jokes. Hey aliens. Your ship looks like a USB stick. Yo, is this a Marvel trailer? Do we clap now or wait for the invasion to start? The Invictus monitored the reactions with increasing confusion. Where were the screams? The panic? Rahl snarled. Clearly they do not understand the scale of our power. He ordered orbital discharges, plasma beams to create mile-wide glass fields outside each city. No casualties. Just a warning. The reaction. Even more laughter. One particularly viral clip showed a man in pajamas raising a mug of coffee to the camera with a ruined crater behind him. Day 1 of the alien apocalypse. They missed. Typical Monday. The intelligence failure. Imperial analysts were baffled. Human psychology made no sense. Most species, when overwhelmed, either submitted or resisted with doomed aggression. Humanity? They mocked. Even worse, they didn't mobilize. No global emergency broadcast. No mass enlistments. No national panics. They just went to work. Like nothing happened. Military satellite scans showed no real defense preparation. No orbital platforms warming up. No fleets forming. So the Empire concluded something that would doom them. Humanity is primitive. They pose no credible resistance. But humanity was watching. Of course they were. Not from a central command center. But from thousands of discrete nodes scattered across the globe. Military think tanks. Intelligence black sites. AI-driven networks. Hidden bunkers. Deep-sea arrays. Earth wasn't panicking. It was smiling. Because humanity had seen empires before. They built them. Watched them fall. Fought wars bigger than anything in the Empire's sanitized archives. And they learned from everyone. And most importantly, they never showed their teeth until it mattered. Behind the curtain. While the Empire flexed for cameras, Earth's real operators moved in silence. Project Silvershade, a cyber warfare AI that had already infected 3 of the Invictus onboard systems. Operation Echo Warden, stealth drones deployed to Empire ships, silently logging drive signatures and identifying weaknesses. Black Sky Protocol, Anti-orbital kinetic rail arrays warming up from secret mountaintop bases. Neural tesseract teams, human quantum cognition units, operatives enhanced with machine symbiotes, being activated. Earth wasn't afraid. It was grinning. And when the first Empire scout ship entered lower orbit over Nevada, it vanished without a trace. No explosion. No wreckage. Just gone. The Empire sent a second. Same result. Now that finally got Raleigh's attention. The human message that shook them. 1 hour later, the Invictus received another human message. This time it wasn't a joke. The screen activated. Static. Then a man in a simple t-shirt and glasses. Not a general. Not a president. He didn't speak with bluster. He smiled politely and said, "Hello again. You tried to scare us. That was cute. But we've faced extinction before. And every time we learned how to teach death a lesson. You want to fight? Or would you rather talk? Because this is your one chance." Behind him, a map of the fleet above Earth flickered into view. One by one, glowing red indicators lit up. Systems offline. Propulsion corrupted. Navigation compromised. "Your ships are infected," he continued casually. "By the time you finish this message, 1/3 of your fleet won't be able to move. Another third won't be able to shoot. We haven't even started yet." Aboard the Invictus, 3 minutes after the message, Grand Strategos Rahl stood frozen. Not because of the human's words. Because the red lights on the fleet schematic behind him weren't part of the message. They were real. Engineering confirmed. Propulsion subsystems across 9 vessels were down. Navigation cores were looping faulty coordinates. One destroyer had accidentally locked weapons on its own carrier and was forced into emergency shutdown to avoid friendly fire. The Empire's fleet, a symbol of total galactic domination for 10 millennia, was malfunctioning, without warning, without warheads, without blood. Because of humans. Scan for hostile activity. Deploy security drones. Check for boarding. Rahl barked. "Already done, Strategos," his first tactical replied, voice unnerved. There's nothing. No ships. No infiltrators." "Then how are they?" A new comm channel pinged. "Private signal / encryption unknown." Then came a voice. A calm, amused voice. "We're inside, Rahl. We've been here since you breached Neptune's orbit. You shouldn't have made us curious." Then silence. Earth's invisible web. While the Empire scrambled to diagnose its fleet's failure, Earth's AI warfare systems were already moving on to Phase 2. Project Silvershade was not a virus. It was a sapient intelligence grown in a quantum-bonded processor, trained on thousands of simulated alien architectures, and taught one command. Understand everything. Then own it. The moment the Empire pinged Earth with their first threat, Silvershade had traced the communication back to the fleet's subspace lattice. Not hacked. Not invaded. Learned. Mimicked. Bypassed. Now it was speaking to their ships the same way the Empire did. With full access. Meanwhile, the world above which the Empire loomed continued, completely calm. The human response. Snacks and memes. The biggest trending topic on Earth's global net wasn't invasion. It was USB ships and Monday Empire. Meme generators lit up. A popular video edited Empire ships into retro disco music. Someone deep-faked Raleigh's face over a soap opera actor. One human YouTuber released a 20-minute mock survival guide titled, "So you've been conquered by a space empire? What now?" The comments? "This feels like DLC content from the 2020s. Aliens don't even have nukes? Weak. They haven't met Florida yet." But beneath the jokes, Earth's real defense net had already marked the Empire as a Type X existential threat, and responded accordingly. And the next move wouldn't be a counterattack. Would be a demonstration. The Orion response. The Empire had noticed strange readings coming from the far side of the moon. A quiet satellite hub, civilian design seemingly. No weapons. No heat signatures. No transmissions. Wrong. The hub was a folded space rail emitter, codenamed Orion Hammer. Its purpose? To fire inertial rods the size of telephone poles from low lunar orbit at speeds exceeding Mach 25, non-nuclear, non-explosive, just pure kinetic violence. Targets: Empire command vessels above Earth. Launch authorization, granted. From silent hangars, 10 rods fired in a spread formation. 10 seconds later, the Emperor's Oath, an Empire battleship hovering over the Indian Ocean, ceased to exist. Not exploded. Just shattered into drifting metal shards. The other rods hit near misses, slamming into shielding arrays and folding armor. Not full kills but painful. The Empire screamed retaliation. Earth sent one reply. That was a warning. The next ones won't miss. Imperial panic in Earth's calm. Fleet Command demanded retribution. Rahl held back. What? Because by then 4 of the command ship's navigation systems had gone completely rogue. Star charts were scrambled. Interior doors weren't responding. Entire gravity wells were flickering erratically. Someone on the bridge whispered, "They're playing with us." And they were. Silver Shade was already reprogramming simulation protocols aboard every Imperial vessel, making them think their own targeting systems had been corrupted, creating false signatures of Earth defense satellites that didn't exist. One cruiser panicked and fired its antimatter torpedoes at a phantom base on the moon. Nothing was there. But now the fleet knew something terrifying. They were no longer in control. The truth about humans. Rahl demanded to know how a so-called primitive species had done this. Why their leaders hadn't begged for mercy. Why their civilians hadn't run in fear. He got his answer soon after. This time, the message came not from a soldier or hacker, but an elderly woman seated on a rocking chair, reading from a paper book. She looked up and smiled. "You see threats. We see curiosity. You bring warships. We build simulations. You shout. We laugh. Because you misunderstand something very old about us. We are not fragile because we don't fight. We are dangerous because we know when not to." She turned a page. "You called us a minor civilization. But look at what we've built. Our worst wars taught us patience. Our near extinctions taught us unity. And now you threaten what we've learned to love. You think we'll panic? No. We'll prepare. And if needed, we'll end you. Quietly. Cleanly." Transmission ended. A new kind of fear. The Imperial fleet had never encountered a species whose greatest strength was not military, nor spiritual, nor technological, but cultural memory. Every time humanity had nearly annihilated itself, it rebuilt smarter, faster, deadlier. The Empire's great secret weapon, its intimidation protocol, was now working against it. Because humans didn't just resist threats. They made a game out of them. The joke that ended an Empire's confidence. At 3:14 Earth Standard, a single human meme was intercepted aboard Invictus. A cartoon. A drawing of a human shaking hands with a robot, smiling as they stood over a grave labeled, "Here lies the last empire that thought Earth was a joke." Scrawled beneath it, "Next." Even Rahl had no words. The turning point, deep orbit over Earth. Admiral Rahl stood in the nerve center of the Invictus, eyes locked on the strange anomaly unfolding before him. The joke, the cartoon of a smiling human burying the last empire, had been more than psychological warfare. It was a time payload. The moment it was viewed on any Imperial device, embedded quantum code inside the visual data unraveled. At first, the crew believed it was just another layer of Earth's absurd tactics. Then the Invictus fire control system rebooted. Then the shields disengaged. Then, total blindness. All sensors, all visual data, all long-range tracking, gone. The fleet's eyes had been ripped away. And from the depths of Sol System's asteroid belt, humanity began to rise. Project Obsidian, the Black Fleet awakens. Unknown to the Galactic Empire, Earth hadn't been idle during its so-called primitive years. For over a century, deep beneath the crust of Europa and Titan, within hollowed-out asteroids and cloaked lunar stations, Project Obsidian had grown. They were not warships in the traditional sense. They were predators. Hull designs didn't reflect radar. They absorbed it. Their engines didn't roar with fusion. They folded and unfolded space with ripple drives, silent, cold. Each Obsidian-class ship was built for one purpose: annihilate superior enemies before they ever realized they were in a war. At 3:47 Earth Standard, 12 Obsidian vessels uncloaked at 1,200 kilometers from the Invictus. No warning. No formation. Just presence. Their appearance made no sound. But for the first time in Imperial history, Rahl felt cold. "You should have left us alone." A single message came from the lead Obsidian ship EHS Revenant. It wasn't a transmission. It was a deep, subharmonic pulse laced into the very fabric of local space. Not a threat. Not a weapon. Just words. "You made contact not with our weakness but our waiting. You saw silence and thought it meant surrender. You should have left us alone." Immediately after, the Invictus artificial gravity failed. Crew members began floating. Lights flickered. Backup systems shorted. Then came the visuals. Holographic projections flooded every ship in the Empire's fleet, images from Earth's own archives. Hiroshima's mushroom cloud. The trenches of Verdun. The charred ruins of post-nuclear simulations. And the quiet face of a human soldier kneeling beside a dead child, with fire in his eyes. These weren't shown for sympathy. They were shown to remind. Humanity had already lived through its worst days. And survived. Empire's last decision. With the fleet paralyzed, communication scrambled, and Earth's capabilities now impossible to measure, the Empire's command fractured. Some commanders begged to retreat. Others wanted to retaliate. But Rahl hesitated. He remembered the woman who spoke gently. The calm in her words. The laughter in their memes. And now the terrible silence of their fleet, watching, waiting, patient. He knew. Earth could have fired already. They could have crippled the entire armada. But they hadn't. They were holding back. Inviting him to think. And that was the most terrifying strategy of all. Earth's final broadcast, the ultimatum. The final message came not from a general, nor a hacker, nor a diplomat. It came from a child. A girl no more than 10, sitting in a sunlit field, petting a dog, speaking into a mic. Her words echoed across every ship. My teacher says we don't hit first because we want peace. But she also says if someone won't stop hurting us, we don't ask them to stop forever. We make them. She giggled, hugged the dog. My dad's on one of the black ships. He says they're shadows, not monsters. But shadows still fall on everyone who walks in the wrong direction. Then came the only warning Earth would give. Leave. Or be remembered the way dinosaurs are. The message ended. Silence again. The Revenant held position. Its guns still silent. The vote of the fleet. Rahl opened a command channel to every ship under his authority. He didn't yell. Didn't threaten. He simply said, they are not prey. They are a mirror. And I do not wish to see what they become when we force them to break that mirror. Pause. All ships. Prepare to leave Seoul. And across the sky, as Earth's citizens watched from mountaintops, rooftops, and cities still humming with electricity, the Galactic Empire turned. And fled. Retreat echoes through the stars. Across the galaxy, Imperial outposts went silent. The core systems waited for reports. The outer rim clung to false hope. But the reality sank in like cold iron. The Empire's most powerful fleet had entered Sol system and returned with no victory, no pride, and no answers. No planetary conquest. No surrender signed. Only silence, and the eyes of every captain forever haunted by what they almost provoked. The recordings from Rahl's ship were sealed, classified at the highest levels. Yet some fragments leaked. The image of the little girl petting her dog became more terrifying to war councils than the sight of any weapon. The meme? The cartoon buried in the code? It became a forbidden symbol among Imperial ranks, a memory of humiliation and warning. The Council demands explanation. On the floor of the High Galactic Council, debates raged. Representatives demanded sanctions. Some called for a second assault with double the strength. But others, those who truly understood, spoke softly and rarely. One of them, Elder Thassuin of the Medhari, stood at the center. His voice trembled as he recalled the memory loop that haunted his neural cortex since his own viewing of the human broadcast. You think they are primitive? They built cities from stone and turned them into engines. You think they are unrefined? They mastered humor as a weapon. You think they are afraid? Then tell me, why didn't they fire first? Silence followed. Not out of respect. Out of fear. Humanity's message to the stars. 3 weeks later, Earth transmitted its only official statement. Not through radio. Not through politics. A message embedded in the gravitational resonance of Sol, piggybacked on background radiation, sent through methods far beyond the Empire's grasp. It wasn't coded. It was clear. We laughed not because we were arrogant. We laughed because you mistook our restraint for cowardice. We don't desire to rule your stars. But we will never kneel beneath them. And finally, let this be the last time your ships come here with chains. A war never declared, forever lost. The Empire didn't declare peace. It simply avoided Earth. Maps were quietly redrawn. New shipping lanes rerouted to dodge Sol by 100 light-years. Humanity's name became a ghost. Not outlawed, not praised. Just feared. But Earth didn't forget. They saw the ships flee. They saw the silence that followed. And from within Project Obsidian's command bunkers, deep beneath the frost of Europa, a single human admiral asked one question. Do we prepare for retaliation? The answer came not from military brass, but from the scientist who designed the Obsidian fleet's cloaking system, a grandmother who once taught physics and raised her grandchild on tales of peace. No. Let them run. Let them remember. The new power. Humanity didn't rise like an empire. They didn't conquer planets or enslave systems. They did something worse in the eyes of the old regimes. They stood alone. And thrived. Galactic empires had always functioned on fear. But fear no longer worked. Because the species who laughed in the face of galactic supremacy had shown something terrifying. That they didn't need the galaxy. But the galaxy? It now knew. Might someday need them. Final log, 1 year later. From the personal journal of Admiral Rahl. In all my years I've watched war devastate worlds. I've watched rebellion infect order. I've watched gods fall. But nothing unnerves me more than this. We reached out to a species expecting submission. Instead they smiled. Then laughed. And now, I can no longer sleep in silence. And so, the galaxy remembers. They remember the day humanity refused to fear. They remember the cartoons and the silence. They remember the fleet that left Earth's orbit, shamed, not slain. And deep within the stars, even now, alien children whisper ghost stories of the Terrans. Not monsters. Not gods. Just humans. And the sound of their laughter. White heavy checkmark like stories where humanity doesn't bow to galactic powers? Then subscribe now to the Void Narratives, because the next tale might just be the one where Earth stops laughing and starts fighting. Collision Milky Way.